Never going in that supermarket. Looks like an airport. Looks like a fucking airport. Look at it. It's like the car park of an airport. This is 9:30 at night in winter, in really bad weather, and it's this busy. It's like being in London or Birmingham. It's mad. Well, when I went to London or Birmingham when I was younger, it's this kind of vibe to it, you know. Lovely Shell garage. And a nice new McDonald's, same as every other McDonald's on the planet. Same looking building. See, I remember what my town was like 5 or 10 years ago, and it wasn't like this. It was very quiet. After about 7:30, 8 o'clock, very, very quiet.
Right, I'm gonna show you something here. Wait a sec. If you go on Google Earth, you have this thing called historical imagery. So this is no, it's not this one. It's this one. So this is current pictures. What you can do is turn off the roads. Just turn everything off, and then you go. Let's go back to 2003. This is from 2003. So this is when I was still at school. Very healthy colour to the whole place. It's almost like the colours and everything are different in some way. It's just, I mean, that's impossible, but well, not impossible, but it's almost like everything looked different back then. But man, whatever. So if you sort of flip between 2003 and now, that's not now. That'll be now, I guess. If I sort of, right. It resets when I do that. So, alright, so, but you can also go back to 1945. So we can go all the way back to, this is when the last good images were. So that's Buckingham. There's Milton Keynes, 2003. It hasn't changed that much. There's Bicester, Can't really see it properly. Might be Aylesbury. I think it is. But yeah, we'll go back to the earliest pictures. That's 2000. Yeah, you can't see it properly. Sadly, I think that's Banbury up there. You can't see it properly. We'll go back to 1985. Again, you can't see it properly. But what there is pictures from 1945. So now I can't even find my town. My town's here. But look at that. That is such a difference. So my house is up here somewhere. It didn't exist then. This is the park. This whole area, sort of all around here, is the park. But back then, it was all fields, which I've sort of explained in my history of Buckingham video, which I did recently. But I knew this a lot of this anyway from talking to my older relatives, grandparents and stuff. So this is the town now. So you see, this didn't exist back then, Linden Village, but this is quite old. This was there when I was born, so this was probably like 1970s or 80s. Page Hill, probably 1950s or 60s. See, that wasn't there. Linden Village is around here. Oh, there looks like there was a road through there. See, there was a road through there that now doesn't exist. That's interesting. Circuit went right through the park as well. Yeah. That must have been a road. Went right through the park. Or a track or something. Now this is my estate here, right? This didn't exist either. Right, so around this area. It's sort of this sort of area. There's the road, it's still the same. Did the bypass exist? No, the bypass didn't exist either, so the bypass come through here or something. My granddad, well, he's not alive anymore. My nan and granddad were born in like 1945 or something like that. So they would remember this, you know. So this is the town centre. And it pretty much just was the town centre. You can see it's almost like the size of a large village. A little bit up this hill, this is a hill here, and a little bit towards where the cemetery is now. This is where the cemetery is. Now this is where my nan's house is. And their house is around World War II era up here. So this whole part of the town here is pretty much the old town. Well, you could include my part of it as well. So this, wait a sec. Path. Basically, this whole area. is the old town that's been there for decades, and you can sort of include this bit as well. See this area here. I wonder if we'll keep that on there when I go back to historical imagery. Yes, it will. So you can see since 1945, the town has grown this much to become what I was used to in sort of 80s, 90s, early 2000s until recently. Now, this part, Mount Pleasant, was added on in living memory for me. This part here, where is it here? This part was built in the 90s, I think, and this part was built in the 90s. But they're quite nice. They're quite nice houses. I'll show you. They're proper English houses that anyone would be happy to live in. They're very well spaced out, well designed. It's a place you'd actually want to go to, and I do go through there like quite often. Quite big, some of the houses as well. Not the biggest gardens, but still a lot better than what they're building now. So that's down in town. My brother's actually renting a house near there at the moment. I think it's costing him like a grand a month or something. Then this is Mount Pleasant. I've had friends that lived there. These are built in the late 90s as well. It's a nice place. It's not the most unique and beautiful houses, but they're good enough. You know, they are quite big, and you got plants, you got trees, you got just laid out quite nicely. It's English, Look at this. This is beautiful. This little thing on top of here, whatever that was, that thing on there. Look at that. See that? Yeah, this was late night. I remember this being built. And Linden Village is a bit of a cheaper area, but it's still a nice place. I'm guessing that was 70s or 80s. Let's try and find it. Here it is. There's a very interesting house here. You can't really see it properly. Look. See this? Look at this house. Look at this. It's mysterious. Mysterious. You're not going to find anything like that on these new build estates. It's amazing. As I said, that's like 70s or 80s. The first time I ever got drunk was after GCSEs, exams or results or something. We just were like, I remember stumbling through these alleyways along it. It's funny. But yeah. So I'll tell you, since 2003, I can tell you what's changed in my town. I'll try and think in chronological order as well. First thing that changed was they built houses over here. And it wasn't too many, but it still has the new sort of style to it. The new build house style. So this was the first thing that happened. and it's quite not far from my nan's house. My cousin used to live here. He's also lived here, and we used to walk down the fields here. So we used to walk down there, go to that village. Um, but here we go. This is what they built in about 2011. It's not too bad, but like this part of it here doesn't match our town at all. This looks really out of place. It looks like something more you'd see in like Milton Keynes or something like that. This sort of big, massive, rounded building. Oh, this was when they were building it. Imagery date 2011. You see, this is when it started. But yeah, this looks weird to me. It looks really weird. It's not the worst. It's better than some of the ones they've made recently, but that was the first thing that happened. Trying to think. The next thing was they built in the middle of town. Where are we? Right, here is. Yeah, so here's the skate park, which used to be an old open air swimming pool. Here's the river. I used to go along there. It's very difficult to get down there. There used to be a lot of fish along here. You could see, I remember playing in here or something, and like kids thing, and looking out over this fence and seeing all the fish in the river down there. But see here, they've built these massive apartment complex. This bridge is ancient, but they've built this massive apartment complex. I've never seen these adverts here. That's weird. But yeah, this was just a field or something. Safe. Look, what is that? It's like a gym or something. But yeah, it's just this massive. So that's the start of them sort of stuffing buildings in the middle of town in just small spaces that they can find. Where are we? Where are we looking? Yeah. So if I look, see here, this area. Now it's these massive apartments. So if I do the path thing, sort of goes all the way here. This whole area. You can see it was woods and car park and stuff, grass. Now it's all apartments. Another one they did was up here. So this, where am I looking? This my nan's house up here somewhere. This is what we call the squirrel wood. I don't know why we called that, but there's an big old house here that the king stayed in once. I showed it in my video. This is called Oven Crescent. There used to be a lot of cats along there. Then you got a really steep shortcut path down there that goes downtown. But there's another shortcut that takes you down here. You go through the woods, and it takes you down here. Yeah, you go down here, and then you go through this archway. So I used to work in an office here when I was like 19. It was like an IT company. Yeah, so it takes you past that, and it's a shortcut to town basically. So you sort of go from my nan's house, you sort of go down here, down here through this. Now this used to be like houses that had fallen down. There was like these broken houses, and there's just the foundations left. You just have to sort of scramble through them and then go through this like big bump to sort of climb through. It was a wild area that children could play in and stuff. And similarly, like these along here as well, and along here, these houses were all sort of like falling down and whatever. Um, but now what they've done, we used to go and collect like blackberries here and stuff. Now what they've done is, watch this. They've built these houses here, these apartments that don't look like they belong here at all. Do you like? You see what I mean? It sort of goes around here to here. Watch. See this? They've just jammed them in there. Do you see that? In that tiny space. And watch this. Oh, you can't see. You can't see them from there. You can see them from the hill though. Up here, up where near where the old police station used to be. Here we are. These are the houses. Up on here. Imagery date 2021. Huh? You used to be able to see those apartments from there, and they were all sort of painted multicolored. They were painted like crazy multicolors. Yeah, you can just about see it like there. But I remember them being like looking like all sorts of colors, like orange, pink, white, like you see at the seaside. Maybe the trees are blocking it, but you can sort of see from here they shoved all these houses here that weren't there before. And it's weird as well because the people's houses just back onto this woodland in a really weird way. These apartments just back onto this woodland. See if I can show you. Right, it's the old buildings. And then through there. Oh, this was in 2011. Yeah, this was before it was built. Before they were built. Okay. Next thing they did was, let me try and think. The next thing was they built this massive estate here. So there's hundreds of houses here, thousands of people. They started this in like 2014, I think it was. 2013, 2014. Watch this. So this is where I just showed you that fucking airport looking supermarket place. So yeah, this whole area here is new. This was just a field. It wasn't a field that I went in, but it was much easier to get out of town before they built this because you didn't have this roundabout and this roundabout. It's just a narrow path along there. So we'll go back to 2003. As you see, no Dino box houses. That is a huge area that's right opposite where I live. And there's loads of people living there. So if we check how big that is, that area is about 1 kilometer wide. It's a huge area. So if you go in there, that's the entrance. It's almost a kilometer to the back of it. You can get completely lost in here, especially at night. Let me show you what that's like to actually live in there. Look at it. Oh, what the fuck? What's going on? Stupid Google Earth. Watch this. This looks like it's bugged or something. I'll turn off historical. Yeah, so this is what it looks like inside there. There's just not a single, there's like one bush, one over there, but it's just horrible. You just looks like you're in the middle, in the middle of a city like Brighton or something. Like, I don't know. Like, you look like you're in the town centre. These buildings look like they belong in the town centre of some place that would have like a modern university or something, or like graphics design offices or some shite. Yeah, and then you get into sort of smaller houses. It's just something looks wrong about them, like they look half finished or something. Um, when you go in there, it all looks the same as well. Everything looks the same. You can't see the sky, and the buildings look so like artificial. It's almost like they're CGI. I'm gonna restart this Google Chrome because it's messing about. It should have tracking for all of that. It made me feel like I was in some sort of trapped in some sort of nightmare or something, or like it was a PS2 game, or like Silent Hill or something like that, um, where it's all like computer generated and it just goes on infinitely, and you can never find the way out. Right? Does it really not have Street View for all the way around? Even Google gave up. They couldn't be bothered to get around all these stupid labyrinthian houses. And it really does look like it's been designed by an AI as well. Like the maximum possible houses in a certain amount of space. You need a computer to figure that out, where to put the houses, how to. You got one facing this way, one facing that way, one facing this way. You got like little roads going off in all directions. Like that little, where does that go? Who knows? Uh, you got a car parked in such a weird place. It's so confusing. None of them have got front gardens. It looks like something in London or something, but the houses in London are much better and much older. But like this style of housing. Look, there's another little alleyway. Where the hell does that go? There's another one. There's another one. These houses are stuck together, whereas the other ones weren't. And they're not even level. They're not even like stuck together at level. There's like one is slightly higher than the other. I could probably find my way around because I've been there a few times. But when I first went there, I was like, "What the fuck is this?" It just goes on and on forever. Look, then you got a little driveway thing, but then there's a house down there. What the fuck? Some of them actually do have proper driveways next to the house, but some of them you just park on the side, or you have like these weird like forecourt things with garages at the back. The back gardens on these are like 15 foot square or something. They're like smaller than as big as the house itself, like in terms of space. What the fuck? And probably none of these people know any of their neighbours. And then again, the style of housing completely changes, and you've got these like weird angular things. It's not that like you want this, you want each house to look unique, but like you, it's hard to explain what I mean. They don't look good, even though they look different. Like they look all the same, but they're also different in a really weird way that doesn't look good when you look at it. There's more consistency within the style of housing on like my estate or my nan's, where my nan lives. The houses are unique, but they're all sort of the same sort of style of house. You don't see like these massive apartment blocks or like this, randomly see like this sort of shit. Like, what is that? What is that? Weird. Anyway, that's one thing they made. That's one thing they did. So that is just the bane of my existence. Next one they've been doing is over here. So they didn't stop at that. That all that and that wasn't enough. And the ones in town, that wasn't enough. So they've started doing more. This was the next one down here. Look at that. That does not look good. That looks ridiculous. I have gone around here like once. It's not that exciting, but let's just take this path, go around it with the path. I think this one was originally a factory, and well, they've also taken up this part, so we'll add this part. So go back to 2003. It was a factory, but there was this woodland area behind it that me and my nan used to walk through. So we'd start here. We'd walk through along the river. We call this Fisher's Fields. There used to be a bridge actually. There used to be a bridge. You could go down here, then you'd go across this bridge, and I remember fishing it underneath that. That we would walk around there, get all the way around, climb over the fence. We'd walk all the way through these woods, all the way down here, all the way through here, all the way through here, all the way through here, down to here. Now this is where I made a campfire the other day, which I'll show you in a bit. Then yeah, we'd go through here, climb up this hill, which is where the old railway used to go. You used to be able to walk all the way along here to Radcliffe, according to my nan, but when I was growing up, you couldn't because it all got grown over. But yeah, then you go around here, and then there was a fence here where you could climb over, and that took you to my granddad's allotment, which was this building here. This building here and all the way down here was my granddad's allotment. But see, now they've built these houses here, and then after that they started doing these ones here. look at this huge area. They're doing all of these, this whole area. Watch. It's ridiculous. This whole area used to just be field. You see it? So this shit wasn't enough. This shit wasn't enough. That wasn't enough. They got to have more. They've done all this. They're doing all this. It's not finished yet, but they've finished the front once. It makes a noticeable difference to the amount of people that are walking along the railway, because not many people used to walk along the railway this far out. They might walk along this part here, but this part here, but not so much all the way out here, because there was only like these houses out here. But yeah, so they've done that one, and then that's not enough. So they've stuffed more in this little gap. Watch this. They've stuffed more in here, in the gap that was left over from that one. Watch, see this? Now, when I used to walk along here with my nan, I remember there was this grassy bit here. It was sort of separate from the road. You could sort of walk along this grassy bit through here, through the trees, and we found a massive puffball mushroom here one day, which is like a mushroom the size of a football. So yeah, they've stuffed more in there. That used to be an engineering place there, I remember. It was called like engineering something. Now look what they've done to it. They've shoved it all in there. And this part of this wood here isn't there anymore, from what I can see. The part we used to walk along was like here or something. Oh, it might still be there, but I can't tell. I don't go along there anymore though. But look at this shit. And then of course along here you got the university, so you've got all the students. That was in 2018 before they did that. And now they've done it, and there's 2021. Now they've done it and there's even more. It's just ridiculous. They're never gonna stop, like they have no common sense. Like what makes somewhere a nice place to live? Because they haven't built any extra, like for example for this one there's so many houses here that they need their own stuff. They need their own like chip shop, doctors, schools to be built down here to make it, and they need a park, so they need a park here, their own park. They basically need their own town. Otherwise they all have to share the two schools here, which were the high schools, which were already basically full when I went to school. We had class sizes of like 30, and people were starting to talk about class sizes being too big. So I have no idea how they're managing that. It's just ridiculous. But they're going to have to build another school in this town soon. We already have two high schools. We have like two secondary schools, two or three. We have Page Hill Primary and Middle School. We have Bourton Meadow Middle School, which is here. Then we have Chandos Road Grenville Academy. This one here for small children. Yeah, and then the latest shit that they've done is building and stuffing some sort of boomer apartment thing into here. So you see this area here? They've stuffed more apartment blocks into here. Do you see? This is a pub here, and this is a like barn. I remember going to like parties and stuff in there. Yeah, they've just ruined it all. Wait a sec. That's out of date. That's 2018, before they did it. See if I can find. See if it will go to a more recent picture. No, you see it was quite nice along there before, but now they've done that. It doesn't want to go to a recent one. Anyway, they are building boomer boxes there for old people to live in or something. And then that's just in my town. They've also built houses, a new housing estate in Padbury, which you can see here. Now Padbury is a very old village with a lot of very old traditional houses and cottages. It's very nice. The A road is too busy, but it wouldn't have always have been. But yes, I can't imagine they're too pleased about having these. If you watch this, I can't imagine they're too pleased about having these new build Dino boxes sort of shoved in on their village. Look at this house. That's so cool. The little dog is very nice. Wayside cottage. These people make a lot of effort for their houses, for their gardens, for where they live. Yes, this is nice. Look, see? But yeah, so they put what? Okay. Alright, watch this. See this shit. Look at it. This is the same village. They've put all these completely soulless houses there. Now these people that move in here, not gonna be countryside people, are they? Like, what do you think? Right, so next one. The next place they've put Gorkot has been fine. It's not had any new stuff. The next ones they put some at Tinderick as well. Look, they put one of these village Dino estates at there's when they were building it. Look at that destruction. That's when they were building it. Doesn't look like that now. But look at that. Yeah. Right, that's that. But another thing that's really important. So if we go back to wait a sec, miles. We go back to 1945. Right, here's my town. I'll turn all the roads off and shit. That's my town. Down here is probably Winslow, yes. That is tiny. That's the nearest town. It's basically the size of a large village in this picture. There's Padbury. There's Buckingham. Tinjerick. Now, if we look at Milton Keynes, if we go and look at Milton Keynes, right? Where's Milton Keynes? You can't see it because it wasn't there. Newport Pagnell, that's part of what is now Milton Keynes. New Bradwell, that's part of what is now Milton Keynes. Wolverton, that is all fields. They were just villages. Calverton, that's the edge. Passing them, that's the edge of it. You look, it was just villages around here. Don't know what this was. Woburn Sands, right. So you look at that, right? And now you look at it. Look, see it? See the difference? Watch this. Look, there's nothing there. Now it's turned into that. And that is obviously part of why there's so much traffic. But in 2003, but everywhere else has got bigger, like Aylesbury, whatever. But one thing I've noticed is, see these fields here. They're building stuff on here that this is recent. Look at the size of it.
I was going to come down and make a video about fishing again and being, and how I can sit here on a remote stretch of the Northumberland coastline and I'm exactly where I belong in the world. And that over the North Sea, a few hundred miles over the North Sea, you'd hit Denmark. And over there there'd be a Danish man and he'd be fishing and he'd be exactly where he belonged in the world. And there's this like beautiful symmetry, everything's at peace, we're all where we belong. And the problem is, I come down and you take a look across the North Sea and you don't just see the horizon, and your mind, you know, that aesthetic of the endless wandering ocean and what's over there has just been taken away by these gigantic horrible windmills. And I cannot help but think that it's a bit of a fucking black pill, to be honest, because you can't even come down to the coast to make a video about belonging and being in your own little place in the world without seeing these sort of monuments to globalism staring you right in the face like they are here. I don't believe for a second that's got anything to do with eco-energy or carbon emissions or anything else. I think that's just a sign of power. It's just to remind you that even out here on a remote stretch of the coast, they haven't forgotten about you, that you're still just a part of an integrated grid, which probably there's some bureaucrat in Brussels rubber stamping all of this stuff, and he'll never have been here in his life. Yeah, it's just a sort of a map with the wind will be on it or whatever. It's just part of this grid of numbers and statistics, just like us, just like the people. So your sense of being is taken away, as is the aesthetic to which you belong. There's no way that can be more productive than just harnessing the sea with a turbine downstairs in the water there. Instead, it's just a reminder, like a mosque in a city centre. It's a show of force. You can't escape. There's no escape whatsoever. Even up here, you might not be diversified yet. You can get away with your little corner of England, but we haven't forgotten about you. The diversity will be here soon, but just in the meantime, get a load of these fucking windmills wrapped down your fucking throat. enjoy it. We're going to take away your views and we're going to take away your sense of being, because this will just be another square on the data grid to be abused, and your little comfort zone is just going to be eradicated. And here's just a little reminder of what's to come. What a bunch of bastards. Isn't that absolutely horrible? What, the one in the middle's not even turning around. What the fuck's the point in that? Rubbish. They've completely destroyed Scotland with these things. Even if it delivered energy, would it be worth it? Could you not just go back and say, you know what it is, pal, it might be better. It might be a little bit better for the environment, but it looks like shit. It just turns the world into a giant factory. Can we please just not do that? It does the exact opposite of what it claims to do. What's the point? I mean, the argument is an eco one. What's the point in saving nature if you're going to destroy it aesthetically like that? Another monument to globalism and liberalism in the modern world. No escape. See you later, folks.
Stop talking outside my door, you idiots. Anyway. Where was I looking? I can't remember. But yeah, this is horrible. I've done a video that was sort of in this area. It was one of my Google Earth videos. See, this is a nice area. But if you look at this now, you'll see, you're going to see Dino box houses, new build houses. Some people call them Barrett boxes. I don't think there's a really like official name for them yet that's stuck properly. Might be able to see them from here. These beautiful fields. Ah, this is 2011, this imagery date. But these beautiful fields here is where they've built all that shit. I've lost my historical imagery tool thing. But I can guarantee you that you can see, if you go up here you can see it as well. 2011. This is now this here is a really interesting church as well. Really cool. Look at it. It's just a really nice area. But yeah, this is how it all looked when I first started cycling. Or a little bit earlier than that. I like these old photos. They're going to get overwritten soon though by when the van comes around again. All the data is going to get overwritten. Very nice. Hey, look at that. Very nice. Look at that. Yeah, I've showed this area in my video that has the Lord of the Rings music on it. Look at this. It's very pretty. And this is right by the edge of Milton Keynes as well. You don't have to go to the Cotswolds or something like that to find, or Yorkshire to find nice places, you know. Yeah, this is what I showed in my video. Yep, there's the river. Look at these hills here. Look at this. This is why I put the Lord of the Rings music on it, you see. You know. This place is called Passenham. Down that is there is called Passenham. That's Old Stratford over there. Sometimes go fishing there. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. Apart from what them making oh yeah, this has had stuff added to it. This Steam's Hanger. This has had new houses added, but past 10 years or so. But yeah, the next one they're doing right is this one here, right opposite the road from this big one. There's my granddad's allotment. To the left hand side, you're doing another one. So all that shit, all that, and the ones in town, not enough, and these ones are not enough. They've got to do more, and it looks like it looks on the map like it's just going up there, but as you'll see, it actually goes. I went down there a few days ago, and it actually goes down all the way to here, and it goes all the way up to here, which I wasn't expecting because I couldn't. It doesn't look like that on this map. Oh, this was last year, so that makes sense. But you wouldn't expect it to go all the way down there because this is a steep hill, and this is all very rough ground. It's just rough scrub land that nobody owns. Basically like a park or an old abandoned railway. But yeah.
Post-World War II architecture, brutalist architecture, and the buildings seen in the modern cities of Europe are both derelict and stand as a testament to the decay of civic life and order. The buildings stand still in the city landscape covered in graffiti, the stairwells saturated with grotty is their existence and grim their form. Ugly and broken, empty and barren, people once lived here, the grime of the buildings leaving their mark on their inhabitants. Crime, murder, rape, theft, these places are bereft of spirit, and all that remain in it become as deformed and barren as the buildings are. Nothing can be seen for miles but shattered glass bottles, metallic cans, and other debris and detritus laying at the feet of these gigantic concrete wrecks. Just like a broth, the scum, always floats to the top. Anthony Daniels, a political commentator who wrote for the city journal called These Structures, Artifacts of Philosophical Totalitarianism, and commented that these buildings represented a spiritual, intellectual, and moral deformity, that the buildings were cold-hearted, inhumane, hideous, and monstrous, that these buildings do not age with grace but instead crumble, stain, and decay the morality of the people. This is the urbanization of the spirit. Welcome to modernity, and welcome to the future.
Right, check this out. Where I am is behind my granddad's allotment. It used to be on, not even on the edge of town, but like right beyond the edge of town. There's always been a few factories in here. My granddad had his allotment just over there, beyond that hedge. And this bit here, you could sort of squeeze through these. There's this metal fence. This metal fence, right? There's a tiny gap you could squeeze through. It takes you down to where the old railway bridge used to be. That used to go to the next village. But it's all when we used to go down there, it was all overgrown, so you can walk all the way along the railway line. But there's still like a big collapsed bit where me and my nan used to go and dig up the cow slips, these like wildflower things, and we only did it once, but we took him back to my nan's garden, whatever. But we would start in town, we would walk along the river through this densely wooded area behind the factories, and it goes alongside the river, and then it takes you round to here, you see, and this is how you get back. But it felt like a massive like hike, like an adventure, you know. When you're like a little kid, it feels really far, even though it's only like 2 or 3 miles. But yeah, I haven't been down here for like 5 years or more, I don't know. But I've just come to take a look because I want to practice my survival skills, and it's been defaced by humanity. It's been defaced by modernity. Look, these houses they're building was on the far side of the allotment, right, which is like, I don't know, like 500, 600 meters that direction. But it's wrapping all the way around behind the allotment, and it's coming all the way down here into this sort of wilderness area. And this used to be somewhere where you could sort of you could go through here and walk through the fields and stuff, and this place just felt really remote, well, to me at the time. But look at it, it's ruined. The wilderness and the nature experience is just ruined. I can hear cars like constantly and that coming from that direction as well. But look at pedestrian walkway. No one's gonna walk across that shit. You've wrecked it. Yeah, I can't get my bike through here, so I'd have to lock it up. If I can fit through here. See, it's very narrow. What I was possibly expecting was to see a lot of dog walkers, because there's a lot more dog walkers nowadays than there used to be. Especially since the COVID lockdown started, and they tend to drive in their cars and stuff. They'll drive out to really remote locations and just walk their dogs around. So you'll go to like some woods that's miles from anywhere and you'll see like 20 people walking their dogs. But yeah, I'm guessing the kids still come down here to have drinking sessions and stuff. Yeah, here we are. Oh, why is that a fence there? That shouldn't be there. That fencing. There you can see this is extremely steep and difficult to get through. Look, they've ruined it. They've really... Looks like you could get through there a bit. That's the railway line I was on about. But now they've fenced it off and they've ruined it. This was a completely like wild wasteland area. Look at these berries. Look at those. There's loads of them. But yeah, they've started invading it as well. It's really sad. There's been so many houses built around my town, and it's just they've stuffed all these sort of rough areas with these houses, and there's nowhere to go to get away from people anymore.
He said one of the key elements of technology was pushing people into cities, because that's where the things were happening. That's where the jobs were. That's where the economies were happening. So people had to move to cities. But cities were, in his mind, just a place of creating mental sickness. That really the only real positive of a city is to create mental sickness in its people. And again, I'm quoting Orwell here. Or Huxley here. The really hopeless victims of mental illness are to be found among those who appear to be the most normal. Many of them are normal because they are well adjusted to our mode of existence, because their human voice has been silenced so early in their lives that they do not even struggle or suffer or develop symptoms as the neurotic does. They are normal only in relation to a profoundly abnormal society. And their perfect adjustment to that abnormal society is a measure of their mental sickness. So that's a pretty powerful statement that he's now presenting, that this technological shift, which happened at the late 1800s when industry really began to ramp up, and as the cities began to grow, you began to see this increase of mental sickness, but not a mental sickness that is verifiable. You know, not a mental sickness that we can say, oh, look at Joe, he's having a real tough time. You know, boy, we better get him some help. To Huxley, it's the very people that you would sit across the room from and think they're doing fine. They're doing everything by the book. They're following the playbook perfectly. Well, to Huxley, they're following an abnormal society's playbook, so therefore they must be abnormal in order to play it. It was one of those really challenging moments for me that had really affected my life. I'll try to throw some stories in as we go along here. It really affected my life, and it affected my life in ways that made it difficult for me to enter society. Even today, it's very, very difficult for me to be a part of anything in the world. And that was, I don't know if I told this story before, but I was living in Toronto at the time, mid-90s, and I was early in the morning. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was attempting to get on a subway train in downtown. And the doors had opened. It was the people going to work downtown in their offices, everybody, wearing a suit, carrying a briefcase. And the doors opened, the people started filing out, and the look on their faces was something similar to what I've seen when cattle were going to get slaughtered. I actually remember the look from that day. And now I'm sure I've seen those faces many times in the past, but for some reason on that particular day it affected me. And it was just something that said, I don't want to be that. There has to be a better way to live than to have to look like I'm going to be a cattle going to the slaughter every day of my life. Of course, I didn't find a great alternative to smooth things out. Probably, if I'd have been really, really smart at that time or shortly after, I should have done something that Thoreau did. When Henry Thoreau decided to take 1 year away from civilization, right? He went. That was his trip to Walden Pond, where he built his own cabin and lived there alone, without any of, at the time, 1800s, any modern conveniences. He wanted to live as simply and frugally as possible for 1 full year, and see what would happen to his mental state. He had got. Again, that's a great chapter if you're interested in taking a look at our society today. Read the first chapter of Thoreau's Walden and how he was viewing the society of his day as he's walking around, I guess, Boston or somewhere in Massachusetts, or the big cities in Massachusetts, and he was just seeing a soulless population of hopelessness, basically. And so he needed to get away from this for a year, just so he could just be away from what he called modern society. That's 150 years ago. But that chapter you could read that chapter, and if someone told you that was written a year ago, you could say, oh yeah, interesting perceptions by this person. Yeah. So that would also, I think, would have been a really powerful experience then, to have done early enough in our lives, not just a small retreat where you take like a week or 2 weeks and just be quiet by yourself and have some meditation time. I mean, like literally a year. A full year away from everything, from all convenience, all interaction with the world. You've stocked yourself up completely. You grow a bit of your own food that you can easily try to grow at the same time while you're there, but you're relatively stocked. You don't have to worry about things for a year, and you just hang out for a year alone. I think that would have been a magnifying moment upon the recognition of what, in my way, was seeing some way of the mental sickness of the world. But I didn't do that, so I kept staying in the world, on the fringes of it. But even if you're on the fringes of it, it's pulling you in, as Huxley's going to tell you. The next part of his chapter begins to move into the topic of what it's named, and that's organization. By organization, he's referring to groups and the importance of what's best for society as opposed to what's best for an individual. The losing of a person's individual wants and needs to be sucked into moving with the crowd, becoming one with the herd. And he claims organization is indispensable, for liberty arises and has meaning only within a self-regulating community of freely cooperating individuals. Too much organization turns men and women into autonoma, robots, suffocates their creative spirit, and abolishes the very possibility of freedom. So already in the 1950s, he's seeing this move from whatever he had seen growing up in the 1910s and the 1920s of, I guess, still a relative okay to individualism, and now this post-World War II period, this new creation of the American dream, this new creation of, particularly projected through television and sitcoms, of this is what your life is supposed to be like, these are the clothes you're supposed to wear, this is the type of house you're supposed to have, this is the type of employment you're supposed to have, and you shouldn't be out, and you shouldn't allow yourself to stray too far from this normal box. And he's seeing that what he's calling organization is the box, the new box of society that's been started to be presented, which he claims will be absolutely critical in creating the type of regime that Brave New World puts into place. Again, if you haven't read Brave New World, I'd highly recommend reading it. Again, it's similar to this book. The first 2 chapters are kind of, they're kind of hard to really get yourself into it. He's giving a lot of detail and information about the society itself. And it isn't until sort of 3 or 4 chapters in that it really starts to build as a novel and as a presentation of information of where society, in his view, is headed. Another Huxley quote: "Life in big cities is not conducive to mental health, nor does it foster the kind of responsible freedom with which small self-governing groups, which is the first condition of a genuine democracy." So he's talking about, and as he goes on, he talks about there was a stepping stone. The first stepping stone is what he called a technological society, or technological engineering. That society was going to be run itself or be focused on technology first. That technology and machines were going to be the most important thing that could be needed. By the time he was writing, he was saying that's beginning to move now in the second part of the 20th century. He was going to move to what he called social engineering. And by social engineering, he means this creation of group ideas, of words like adaption, belongingness, teamwork, group living, group dynamics, group creativity. This whole idea where the whole of society has more importance and worth than any of its individual parts. And that inborn biological differences should be sacrificed to cultural uniformity, that the rights of the collective take precedence over what the 18th century called the rights of man. So this is very, very interesting, that he's already seeing this presentation of the technology part had now come in and had done its job, which was to get people to squeeze people into cities, take people away from a lot of their individuality of living their own kind of simple private life if they wanted, pushing them into these larger and larger conglomerates that they can't possibly own or be in charge of. And then once you've got that, begin engineering acceptability. It's okay to say this, it's not okay to say that. It's okay to wear this, it's not okay to wear that. It's okay to do this, it's not okay to do that. And certainly that was a lot of the 1950s. In some ways, the 1960s, and there was a bit of what you might call a breakout or attempted breakout in the 1960s that didn't work very well. And by the 70s, we had even more conformity. Over the last 20 years, now you're not even allowed to use certain words. And in the last year, now I have to go to this other platform just to be able to talk to you. We're seeing this engineering. What's acceptable, what's not acceptable. This is a very clear statement of what he says about what cities do to people, what this kind of social engineering has done. People are related to one another, not as total personalities, but as embodiments of economic functions, or when they are not at work, as irresponsible sources, I'm going to read the whole thing again because it's an important quote, I want to get it correct. People are related to one another, not as total personalities, but as the embodiments of economic functions, or when they are not at work, as irresponsible seekers of entertainment. How does that not explain the world we've lived most of our life? So he takes this into this idea of, again, we're moving from technology to social engineering, to then what he says, I'll read the whole quote. If the first half of the 20th century was the era of the technical engineers, the second half may well be the era of the social engineers. And the 21st century, I suppose, will be the era of world controllers, the scientific caste system, and the brave new world. Who will mount guard over our guardians? Who will engineer the engineers? The answer is a bland denial that they need any supervision. So his first comment right at the beginning of the chapter was that technology takes away freedom. That while technology has this great ability to make things easier or do more or do it quicker, do it with less requirement, less energy expenditure, it comes with a negative, right? All technology comes with a negative. And in one sense, the negative is, as he describes, the more complex technology gets, the more expensive it also becomes. And that means the less likely a small entrepreneur can in any way compete with bigger companies who have bigger resources, who can get better and more technology. And that includes technology, once you're making more products or more stuff, you have to distribute it. And again, if you're small, you don't have the means of distribution and the means of moving the goods you've just got a hold of into the market. So it means that as technology actually, the more technology goes up, the more business will be contained in fewer and fewer and fewer people. Fewer organizations will control more and more and more. And that just comes straight out of the technology, because again, if you have to buy, 80 machines to run a factory to compete, and you can only afford 2, well, you just can't compete. You just can't be part of the marketplace. And we've seen, he was already describing this in the 50s. We see where we're at now, where small business has really, really been attacked systematically for 20 or 30 years, and certainly systematically attacked in the last year. But more so, as the economic power becomes centralized into fewer and fewer people, it also means that those fewer and fewer people in the state will work closer and closer together. So the business interests and the state interests will become negligible to tell the difference between them. So the state will get more and more control over everything that has to do with business. So this small group, which of course the business owners are the political group at the same time. So this power, as technology puts business and the economy into fewer people's hands of control, it also puts actually the government into fewer and fewer hands of control. Exactly what we've seen, right? As he says in the book, quote, technology has just led to the concentration of economic and political power.
That's up, that way is up where the roundabout is, where all the new stuff is. Where I videoed the other night, there's that McDonald's. So that's the town's bypass road. So it's an A road, so you'd expect it to be busy. But anyway, but now we're actually in town, and you sort of see that the traffic is not much better in town. So this road is become very difficult to cross in the daytime. It wasn't like that when I went to school. It was, you could cross it fairly quickly. It wasn't an annoyance as it is now. But some of the bark. So it's quite hard to remove it without a knife. It's quite difficult to remove. I got a little bit. But this makes for excellent natural tinder, fire starting material. No, not the tinder you get on your phone. It's a different type of tinder that the ancient people would have used. This road was never this wide as well. It was they redeveloped it. On that side, the path was widened on both sides, and there was a hedge on that side of the road all the way along, and it just been sort of swallowed up by the road and the path now. So it's as if the road isn't what it used to be. It's not even the same. I might be able to find pictures, or maybe not. Look at these birds flying around. These are silver birch too, I think, or something silver. But I really want to take the bark off of the living one. So those logs are perfect, but I need a knife. I need a knife to actually remove it. Without a knife, it's difficult to remove it. Yeah, this traffic, man. And it's school run, right? But it'll stay like this until rush hour, and rush hour stays until about 8 o'clock now. It used to be about 7 o'clock that it would start to 7:30. It would start to quiet down, but now rush hour will go on to sort of 8 o'clock, 8:30, and yeah, then there's still a lot of traffic at night, as I sort of explained. Look at this sea of cars here. Look at this. That's insane. See his work. Look at this. It's insane. It's mad. It used to be you'd only see this in sort of a city like Aylesbury or Milton Keynes. You'd see this level of traffic, but not in a town or village. Anyway, but yeah, that's the daytime. It doesn't get much worse than this, but it's bad enough. Anyway.
But I have some thoughts about where we are, because things are churning. Things are churning. People are being pushed into a corner now. They're starting to feel it. Before it was just an annoyance. Now that they're getting more of a sense of where this is headed. You know, particularly places like Austria, the Netherlands, and of course Australia. They're getting it. People are starting to figure this out, and they're responding. We're moving to a moment that Carlos Castaneda liked to discuss as the fleeting moment of chance. And what that means is there are tiny doorways or tiny windows that will open, particularly when things get rough in a warrior's life. These openings will be there that can, not to transport the warrior to somewhere safe or better. It's a doorway of power, it's a doorway of change, it's a doorway of transformation. But it's not there long, and you have to be looking for it. And I'm saying this now, I've talked a lot about how this time period is. The opportunities are very individual. I think right now we're at a fleeting moment where the opportunities are planet-wide for the group. Because within about 2 or 3 months, if something big hasn't happened, it might not. If things have not started to change in 3 months, it might not. You know, we've got the three likely scenarios that of course the scenario where what did I call them? The influencers just continue with what's going on, the majority do what they're told, and lo and behold, we are living in 1930s Germany or the Soviet Union within 3 to 6 months. That's a high likelihood of possibility still. The second possibility that is giving us now with this fleeting moment of chance is we're starting to see that not just are the population getting upset, we're starting to see that the police and the army are not fully on side now. And that's all it takes. This ends when the people with the guns who are protecting the ones calling the shots, when they're no longer protected, it's over. There's one system that's running the whole show, that's been running this matrix for a long time, and it's linked. It perpetuates itself through the systems it uses: government, commerce, education, law, science, religion, history, all of these things. All of these things are interconnected systems of the one system. You can't just change a few people at the top of any one of those underlying systems. You know, it's like a computer. It's an operating system, and the operating system will be in place. It just gets updated, changed, altered. If you want to have a different experience, you have to get rid of the whole thing. So that would have to be the next stage. Is literally you'd have to burn it to the ground, the system we've lived under for 150 or 200 years, and rebuild something from scratch. The third option you've got is, of course, if for real huge change, would be divine intervention. That something we're not expecting, the sky opens up, the world splits in two, and there's two different worlds. Okay, well, that's beyond our control or our preparation for. What I can see that you should be ready for is a wrench is going to get thrown into the mechanism really soon. Things are heating up. It's bubbling over. It's impossible even for the media to ignore it now. They have to at least be mentioning what's going on. They can't be hiding it because it's too obvious. And they're going to throw something in there, whether it's knocking out the internet, food shortages, some new thing to be scared about, a meteorite. I don't know, right? There's going to be something that's going to, again, please, you have to listen to us. We know what's best for you. Do what we tell you to do, because this next other thing is even worse than the thing before. Listen to us. Stop, So expect a wrench. And I would say almost for sure, like I now was wondering when they're going to shut the internet down. If there is actually a coup, like if a Western nation falls to its military, I would almost expect instantaneously that's what they'll just flip the switch on the internet. Because as soon as one goes, like I say, it would be like a domino effect if other countries find out about it quickly enough, they could roll the thing. So that would be the first thing. If I saw the internet got shut down, I would be wondering, did a country just get taken over? And behind the scenes, they're trying to undo that as we speak.
Year of the Ox is also the birth year of Walt Disney. There's plenty of coding going around if you just have a look. But again, that's not the point. The point is the year 2022 is the year of the tiger. And when we look at the old My Pet Goat video here, it's difficult to see the sequence, the timeline of events, because My Pet Goat is like not in linear time. As we discussed in the last video, it's more like actual reality. It's more like flat plane reality, where all these moments are going on at the same time. So it's very difficult when you watch My Pet Goat to put it in linear progression, because it's not, reality isn't really like that. It's just a much simpler way to perceive it. But anyways, we can see in this part of the video, which I'm alluding to right now, you're in some kind of a giant rib cage. There's a threat coming towards, and there are people protesting. And you can see right there on the back of her jacket, Year of the Tiger. So we're talking about 2022. People will start pushing back against whatever craziness is going on, NWO or whatever is going on. But as we can see with the reality script, even though she's like, you know what? I'm not in I'm not in the scariness of the year of the bat. I'm not in the aftermath of fear of being led around like a cow for the year of the ox. I'm pushing back because it's the year of the tiger. But death has already decided what it's going to take. So it grabs her on her shoulder and she's like, I'm gonna fight you. But then when she looks at reality, when she looks straight on at what's going on, it's like, she realizes, you know, the gig is up. No matter how much we want to kind of fight against what's going on, it's like what we were talking about before. So much of this has already been decided that even if you tell people and you fight, you go crazy, it's like it's already done. And that's why she has this like little sad little look of like, this, for whatever reason, has already been predetermined in this fashion. And then in the progression of the video then, quite a bit later, you get to the Notre Dame Cathedral. So as we can see, the Notre Dame Cathedral collapsed in April of 2019, and the Year of the Tiger stuff hasn't even happened yet, but the 2019 part is mentioned here, the latter part of the video, and the 2022 symbolism is more towards the middle of the video. So the linearness is not there, but the story is still coming together in the same way. He's on fire from his feet. Why? Because the soul is on the bottom of your feet. You, in this world, we're so inverted and upside down, like you don't even see your own soul, you just walk on it. So, also, the one-eye symbolism of being blind to yourself. You see one-eye symbolism everywhere. And then the symbolism we've been seeing the whole time with this, this change of ages is the water lily, this, symbol. And you can see the church is destroyed and he wakes up, and it used to be that he would just float off into the distance. But I believe it was 2019, we noticed the video changed where instead of just floating off into the distance, it's like he's enclosed and the boat kind of stops and he's just sitting there. So I'm watching this for the first time in a long time now, this part of the video, to see if it's changed again. Just doing this in real time. It looks like it's still enclosed. So his boat can't just travel endlessly out into the sea. So yeah, the pyramids are getting destroyed, everything's going crazy. And the boat stops. Okay, so that was actually an effect on the video, an Emmy effect on this video. It didn't used to stop, he used to just keep going, and he wasn't enclosed in. So those are my little thoughts on what might be coming in the pipeline. So for the people who are depressed with saying, wow, people are not noticing what's going on, they will notice, but by the looks of this, maybe maybe it's just like so many people have already gone down a certain path. By the time we get to 2022, they won't be turning around, or they won't be able to turn around. Like they might realize like, oh, maybe this wasn't the right move, but it's kind of already done. Weirdly, it's right now I'm feeling that way of, even though I want to fight forever and change everyone's mind, it weirdly feels like it's already done and we're just watching it play out. So I hope any of that was useful or interesting.
I sure do miss those white women, though.